It being 5 o'clock, as co-chair of the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee of the 250th of Concord 250, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we're going to start with a roll call. So I'll just say your name, and because we're a virtual meeting, we want to make sure we do our roll call visually. So let's say here, Kate James,
Here.
Polly Reeve,
Here.
Joe Hibbert,
Here.
Krista Collins.
Here.
And Nancy, I think you're just connecting to audio. Hi, Nancy, can you hear us? If you can you unmute and just give us a present?
Hi. Sorry.
It's all right. So we thank you, Nancy. So we definitely have a quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting that Polly prepared. Polly?
Yep. So I sent them around to everybody, and I heard from Kate with a couple of quick changes that I'll just quickly tell you. One was a typo in 4D. The word "the" in the first sentence should be "that." Thank you, Kate, for that. And then number 5, it seems good to change it just have it read, Kate encouraged members to see the power of the people, art and democracy exhibit at the MFA. And then I added, which closes the February 16th. If that's all right with everybody. We had a discussion about whether we could organize a field trip, and given that it closes on February 16th, that might be really ambitious. But it does seem like something we should all go to, and I know Kate wanted us to see it. So that's what the minutes would say if you approve of those edits. And if there are other edits, speak up.
Any other edits to the minutes? So I'd like to propose that we accept the minutes as amended, as Polly described, and I put that as a motion to the committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And we'll do a roll call. Kate James?
Second. Yes.
Yes or yes? Good.
Yes.
Joe Palumbo? Yes. Polly Reeve?
Yes.
Joe Hibbert?
Yes.
Krista?
Abstains because I wasn't here last week.
All right, thank you. And Nancy?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so minutes are accepted, and Polly, go ahead and at your leisure, file those to the town clerk. So the next thing on our agenda, and Joe, this is something that I think we added in the last few meetings since you weren't here. We have a little check-in spot at the beginning before we go into the agenda, and the check-in is really a space for anyone who has a pertinent piece of information that is important for everyone to know up front, or if they've heard anything out in the community that you think, I've heard this rumor, it should be clarified, or I've heard this misperception that needs to be clarified, or just something that the group needs to know. So we just kind of make a space for that. So does anybody have any check-in items before we go to our main agenda?
Can I also ask a question, or should that come later?
Why not? Let's see.
It doesn't fit into.
If it's the agenda, we'll put it later, and if not, we'll put it somewhere.
Okay. I was just curious if to know if the Historians Advisory Group is scheduled to meet on February 4th. I've heard that, and I'm just wondering if that's going to happen.
That's a good question. I don't know if they're meeting. I do know that we've not made any progress with the town about how to organize them as a functioning subcommittee, because they're all in disparate places. And the town's having difficulty at figuring out any kind of stipend for them in terms of the accurate town procurement process. So I'm scheduled to talk to their kind of organizer, Elise, and tell her, look, we've made no progress in either area. Do you still want to meet on the 4th or not? But if I find out they're meeting on the 4th, I'll make sure that you know, Nancy, so that you can join them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I've got one. Go ahead, Polly.
Oh, well, Okay, just quickly, one thing that I've, as I've been discussing this project with people in town, the question that keeps coming up is, we'll have these, has your outreach schedule, your outreach events, have they been scheduled yet? And so I just wanted to say, I think we should look at calendars pretty soon, because I think we should get something in the calendar, and I think nothing like a deadline to make you
Yeah.
produce stuff.
So let's make sure when we talk about our activities today, let's kind of see if we can force ourselves to land on a date or dates. That would probably be good. The one I have two updates. One is on Monday night, the Concord250 Executive Committee was making their regularly, I think it's every month, or presentation to the select board. And Gary asked Polly and I to give a quick update on where we're at with the Permanent Memorial Committee. And so we just shared sort of like pretty much what we've been doing, and that we're specifically focused in the next 6 months in the engagement plan. And man, Polly, I don't know what you thought, but it felt like we got good positive feedback. Like, oh, we're glad that you are taking the time and slowing down and trying to work with the community. I don't know if anyone heard the conversation, or Polly, if you have stuff to add, that like, what was your feeling?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I thought it was well received. I thought there was support for what we're engaged with now. And there was a chance to ask some questions. And I think it went well. I think that there's interest in this project, and it's good that we're reaching out to more people. And I think Joe did a great job of giving a little history and demonstrating that these things take time, and they have in the past, and this is going to be no different. So
Good. And Polly highlighted the revisions we made to the statement of purpose, and I think everyone was glad to see that those soldiers who lost their lives in the American Revolution, that we had not properly recognized before in the community because we didn't know about them, that they're included in the statement of purpose. I thought was well noted. The other piece of information I heard goes in the rumor department. I've heard from more than one person that there are some folks possibly working on a citizens petition around the concept of memorial or the permanent memorial that may or may not be filed for town meeting. I don't know any more details than that. So if you hear anything or anyone talks to you about it, just let us know. We can talk about it at the next meeting. And I don't know if anyone knows any more stuff, but if it's a group of people talking about what a permanent memorial should be, and that creates more conversation in the town, it can't be bad. It's just not us, but that's okay. Anyone can talk about it. It's a big country. But has anyone heard that rumor? Okay.
What is a citizen's petition?
When articles go on the town warrant, they can come from like a committee like us, or the 250 committee. It can come from a select board via committee, or it can come from a group of citizens. I believe any 10 citizens, if you get 10 signatures, maybe it's 15, you can bring it to the town clerk, and they temporarily place it on the town meeting warrant, and then it gets kind of like vetted through the lawyers of the town, et cetera, et cetera. And if all goes well, it goes on, and the town gets to vote on it. So you guys probably know better than I do. There's been all kind of like citizens petitions over the years. There was one last year about clickers, or about redoing town meeting, or I guess the bottle ban probably started as a citizen petition. It's a way to get people, because the town meeting is just the legislature for the town, and since every resident who's a citizen of the town is a member of the legislature, anyone can like put a motion up, and that's basically what it is.
Okay.
What it's going to say, if they're going to do it, or who they are, if they're going to do it, what it's going to say, don't know. But if you hear anything, it'd be good to know.
Okay.
I just texted someone who might know.
Okay. If you get any late breaking reports, let us know at the end. Okay. Any other items? Check in. Okay. This is a reminder. What we've been working on the last few meetings is we had taken the three big objectives of the 6-month engagement plan: raising awareness, engaging the community, fostering broad-based support. And then what we did, Joe, over the last 2 meetings is we brainstormed every possible activity we think could fit under one of those. And all ideas were good ideas. And then we narrowed to 3 that we wanted to start on. And what we started talking about in the last meeting is how to like actually make some progress on those 3. And the ones we spent a lot of time last time talking about were, Polly, do you have those handy? I think I have them on my, yeah,
Wait, yeah, we talked about this, amending the statement of purpose.
yeah, which we did. So that one's off. We did one
We
down.
discussed how to involve high school students in general, but in particular, we were really impressed with the 5 essays that were winners in the Concord 250 essay contest, and discussed how to involve those students and maybe others in helping us think about the memorial. And that led to a conversation. Nancy Frisella Lee offered to oversee a bookbinding project so that we could bind those beautiful essays and make them available. And so there's going to be more conversation about that. I think that was number 2. Number 3 is we need a presentation of our work so that we can take it out on the road and have present to our different forums that the work that we've done to date, and to solicit feedback and engagement. And Tui and I are working on that. And then Kate made a suggestion that Concord Art has good contacts with some well-known sculptors, and it would be interesting to ask them about, what they might be inspired to create at this site, just to have some other ideas floating around. So those are the 4 that we sort of dug into last week. Did I miss
Right.
anything?
No, sounds good. Which one do you want to, so let's take one at a time and see, update if we've done anything in the last week, or if we can make any progress in any one of those. Polly, which one do you want to do first?
I'm happy to do the one that had my name attached to it, because I have to confess, I have not, Tui and I have talked about this. We sat down with some paper and started sketching things out, and that's about as far as we got in the week. So, but it's top of mind. It's tricky to find the time, and there's a lot to wade through, and to come up with a short, succinct, informative, and engaging presentation. It is going to take some time, and it's one of the reasons I would love to have a deadline so that we'll feel some urgency, because there's so much going on in everybody's lives. It's hard to make it top priority.
So for Joe's information, I know, do you want to give like the 30-second on what if this presentation goes well, what it's supposed to do?
Yeah, so the idea is to bring different audiences up to date on the work that we've been doing for the last couple of years, sort of how we got here. I think we've agreed that it should include the video that we watched early on from the Monuments Project called Beyond Granite, because I think that was really helped to frame our conversations, and then go through your site analysis, Joe, all the different documents, well, not all of them, because I don't think we'll have room for all of them, but the important ones that came from your examination of the site, its characteristics, its context, its challenges, its virtues, and then I think a key piece will be the slides that you and Gift prepared on different alternatives for how the space could be organized, and some background on how we made the decisions that we made along the way, in terms of placement of the memorial and so on. And so to provide that kind of feedback, to provide that kind of context, and then one thing that we need to think about is how the concept, the design concept that we have, how we present that and use it as a way. I think that people love the statement of purpose. It seems, it's what we're hearing, is that no one's going to argue with our statement of purpose. At least we haven't heard that. And where it starts to become concrete is where people start to say, well, have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? So I think that's what we're, or would you be willing to think about doing this or that in a different way? And so that's what we're trying to start those conversations, so that folks have a chance to weigh in and to help us, find our way through this to something with more detail. And so I think is that what everyone else
Yeah.
thinks we're doing here? It would help me to know if
Yeah,
we're
and
on track.
Yeah. And I think to build in opportunities for people to suggest other paths. I think that what we've heard, that's an important part of the activity will somehow, like if there's a person that says, this is the most beautiful, awesome thing, it needs to go in West Concord because that's the future of the town, blah, blah, or something. We need to have some way of like creating a space for people to have alternate ideas in this presentation at the end somehow. I don't have an answer, but it just can't feel like it's all like down the track and it's too late to think of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the point is, and to understand if this is, if the whole thing, the concept, the purpose, the concept, the anniversary, the reason behind all of this, if this is something that the town is embracing. And I think that the site actually, I think tying it to the site is important because that's the reason it is that our thoughts developed the way they did is because we've been thinking about it on this site all along. And in order to build this or anything there needs to be the town needs to be behind it. It's a gift to the town. And so we need to hear from as many people in the town as we possibly can. And we've heard from some, but we certainly haven't heard from enough. So, and I think looking at as we start to plan these opportunities, I think really thinking about how we're going to get different demographics involved. So, everything from students to seniors to, people who are busy in the evenings and can't come to forums in the evenings to, anyway, so, but it'd be nice to have one tool, a little thing that we can take out on the road and deliver a uniform message.
Krista.
I think one challenge is going to be the starting place for inviting feedback, because I think we agreed we're not going back to a blank slate, because we heard from people early on that they need something to respond to, and it's too hard to kind of think of ideas in a vacuum. So I think identifying where that, are we going back to the site analysis? Are we going back to the sort of, different proposals that Joe and Giff presented? I think that's something we will probably want to talk about as a group.
Totally. I completely agree. And I've been thinking about that, Krista, because I do think that our committee, we were charged with making some decisions and setting a path here, and we've done that. And I don't know, I for one think we made some very sound decisions, and I think that and I think within that context there is room for hearing more ideas, and so I think that's exactly right. I think where what's been done, like what's water or what's kind of set at this point, and what is open to discussion is really key. And I think at the end of the day, the point is we being the town, really, 250 committee, but really the town needs to earn the support of the community, because this is something we want to have there for a really, really long time. And so.
Other thoughts on this work that Polly and Tui are kind of just taking the lead on to bring something as sort of like a draft roadshow presentation?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. Having missed 2 meetings, I have to sort of rewind to where I was. And when I was putting my list of possible things to do to raise awareness, engagement, and support, this was the top thing on my list, to basically, like you're calling it, put a presentation of work to date. And then I put some bullets underneath of what that presentation might be. And I thought number 1 would be to restate why this is really important and why we're doing it. And the second thing, and this is some of the discussion that we were just having about, is where are we in this process? And how did we get here? And again, in a concise way. And then the third thing would be what we now seek. And I think we're seeking first, and maybe this is already done, but we're seeking mission confirmation, the confirmation of the statement of purpose. Second, I think, and we may have reached as a conclusion, the group already, confirmation of the site where the memorial is going to go. And again, now this gets into the realm of, okay, is this a decision, a mutable thing, or is this a fix? If someone says West Concord, then obviously site confirmation is still in play, and we'll find that out through this process. But we could say that the subcommittee position is site confirmation. We think it belongs on 1693, if that's what we conclude. And then another big fork in the road in terms of, in my understanding of the memorial, is we made a decision fairly early that we were going to use educational narrative, that we were going to have quotations or inspiring narratives about a group of individuals who have all been engaged in and related, connected to Concord, but engaged in this whole fight for social justice that sort of embedded in our Constitution and in our Declaration of Independence, but it's been an aspiration that people have had to fight for, just like the fight at North Bridge. The fight has gone on. And I found that when we made the decision that it's going to be narrative, that drove a lot of the physical design. And so I think we have to ask the question, I think in this statement, we would explain that this was a subcommittee finding and something we felt strongly about. Now, if that's going to be challenged in these group meetings and gatherings that we have, okay, just like location, I think we have to accept the input. If we're looking for engagement, then that's the engagement and that's the message, fine. And we can adjust accordingly. But my understanding is that changes the whole game if you say it's going to be narratives or it's going to be something that's symbolic, an object in space or whatever it is, or a figure, whatever, that somehow is going to represent all of this multifaceted fight for social justice, whether it's feminism or racism or whatever. I think that's one of the discussions others may recall too, is that how do you find an image that captures all of that in one place? I think it's a lot of times with war memorials, it's a bit easier because you have one mission, or one thing you're talking about, and that is sacrifice. And so an expressive figure or group of figures that are embodying the idea of sacrifice, is there a similar bonding or binding idea for all of the people fighting for social justice? I don't know, but we didn't steer in that direction, and that would be good to put on the table. And then I think the other idea, and maybe this was more organic in terms of the way it came to pass, was the idea of expressing the North American historical context in which the Europeans, the British, and the then Americans developed this country. There was a 12,000-year history of human settlement here. And my recollection is that got woven into the thinking fairly early on, and it took a form in the memorial design. So those are the things I thought we should be trying to tease out at these group sessions and presentations. And I think the spirit of it has to be, we've been on this search, and here's what we found, and maybe you can help us redirect, or maybe it's not what you think when you are presented with the same information. So, and I agree with Polly's statement. It would be very good to talk about the opportunities and constraints of the site. We could then talk about why the memorial elements are on the site where they are. And do people differ with that? Do they think they should be down by the parking lot? Or do they think they should be in the middle of the site over the giant septic tank or, sediment tank? So I think presenting that physical design background would be very good as well. And maybe we can even simplify the space organization concept. Here's the option, or say, here's where we ended up. Does anybody see another option that needs to be explored? So I think that's all very good. And as far as the concept itself, I am not defensive about it at all. And if there's a swell of opinion that suggests that the whole thing should go in a different direction and it puts a bad taste in people's mouth because there's been criticism, then we let it go. We say, here's what we did and here's how it works. And I would even like to rebut some of the criticism of it being urban and heavy and all those things. I think we could easily dispel some of the misinformation I think that's been out there, or misperceptions, I think. But not defend the design, but just say, here again, this is where our little research project took us. And we're now looking either, one, to make you aware of what the town is doing, two, to seek your support and engagement and ideas. So I think this is really step number one, and probably the most important thing that among these, how we meet the objective. So
sounds like Polly and Joe, you should help Polly and Julie plan this.
I would love to have you join doing me, Joe, and
okay.
yeah, you've got a lot. That was
Yeah,
very well put.
I'd be very happy to do that.
Okay, Krista?
Yeah, just Joe, to your point about, how we ended up going in the narrative direction, I think it would be really important to include that we did start off with thinking about something that was more symbolic and talking about, commissioning a statue, maybe of Ellen Garrison or something like that. And there was the cost factor, and then like kind of, you said, feeling how do we embody all these ideas in one, in one statue or something symbolic.
Yeah, I think we were working with practical constraints too. If you want to go out and let's suppose we had come to the idea that it's going to be figurative art, neoclassical figure of some kind, whatever, and that's not Sasaki. We would continue to be the landscape architect, but the town would have had to muster up hundreds of thousands of dollars to go out and find that really high quality Daniel Chester French of today to do it. And we looked at each other, and Gary was saying, how are we going to do that? We've got to get some momentum going. Let's do it. So there were practical parameters that kept us from taking certain avenues as well.
Kate? Oh, Nancy?
yeah.
Kate?
Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
No, go ahead, Kate.
Oh, so I think probably I should, Joe, it sounds like my suggestion to look into contemporary sculptors who could create a more symbolic structure. I should stop.
No,
Why would you do that?
Because doesn't it interfere with what
no, I think
Your-
that
your statement? I mean, I wasn't aware that you sort of looked into that and decided not to do that. So
okay, but I think where we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but what we're saying is we're going to go out into public and try to generate some interest and support for this project. And the only way we feel we can do that is to sort of explain to people what we did. And if there's a majority of people who support that, fine. But if there's a majority of people who say, no, we don't like that whole educational narrative thing, we'd
Mhm.
much rather hire a skilled artist, sculptor to create something for town. I think what the subcommittee is saying is that if that's what we're hearing and someone has energy and money and a way to pursue that, that we would move in that direction. I don't think
Mhm.
we're saying we're attached to the idea of when I was saying we've had that fork in the road where we're going to say we're going to do something discursive or non-discursive symbol. We made the decision to go that way, but I think the committee, I guess we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to go back to that intersection and open it up again?
Right.
If we're
So
not,
are we? That's my question.
yeah, my thought is yes, we should be.
There have to
Otherwise,
be.
why go through this whole process of, you know, I don't think we want to be perceived as jamming a solution down people's throat.
I think that's
And,
probably wise. Yeah.
and I think an activity like we talked about last time that Kate just described, that helps people make meaning of these concepts, and they're going to be better able to answer the question of going back to the fork in the road, having activities like you're describing, Kate, because that's going to open people's minds and thinking about it in new ways. So anything that causes more conversation, I think, is
Well,
healthy.
I've been thinking about how to do what I talked about. I mean, I haven't uh
We don't.
I could do something that's a little more conceptual and not ask particular artists
Okay.
to make something for it. Oh, sorry. I
Well,
should have
let's just wait because we should talk
Yeah.
about that in some depth. But
Okay.
let's get
Yeah,
back to Nancy's question and then
okay.
see if we can button up this presentation conversation.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Nancy.
Mhm.
So yeah, I am also interested in working with Polly and whoever works on the presentation. I thought that last week because yeah, I'm a part of the committee and I have some, strong ideas about how I would like to see that go. Most everything I heard is fine. I guess I am a little, I do see a problem in we're stepping cautiously over this difference between what Joe Hibbard just laid out and what Kate wants to do. Because I heard two things. I heard that we are going to be open-minded to other people's ideas, but then I heard Joe say that he's ready to defend some of the criticisms, one of which is the design looks very urban. And I'm going to be out front because you have my letters, and that was one of my comments. Joe, I've never sat down and talked to you about your design, and I would really love to do that. I have an art history background and an art background, and so, I've only talked to you in these meetings, so I'm very open to hear more about what you say. But I've heard that from other people, so it was my wording and not just my wording, and it's other people's too. So the problem with it is I am open to go in different directions. As I've said, I don't like to look back, but I had wished that the process had been different, and it wasn't. So I'm willing to work with that. However, I do see a problem that you're the one who created the design, and again, I'm going to be very open. It's very uncomfortable for me to be in this position. I really want to be conciliatory. I'm really trying to work hard with and be supportive. But I have heard from other people that it's a conflict of interest for the designer of the memorial to be a voting member of this committee, and especially when you don't live in Concord. And I know you live in Carlisle, and I don't have a problem with the fact that you don't live in Concord, but I think that our committee is small. And so I think we're missing some really important business. There's a lot of experience in this town and people who have dealt with these issues that I wish, we could add to the committee. And I love it that you should be an advisor, but, I guess I just am worried about how I don't know how open, again, I want people to be able to say what they want, and I want whatever presentation we put together to start with that, to be open and not to, and I said this in another meeting, when we start, I want it to be more other people speaking than us. I think it is good to give people a framework, but that's what I would advocate in putting together a presentation.
Well, I think from hearing all four of you talk, there is overlap and synthesis, I believe, in what you're saying, that what you're describing can be created. You just have to be willing to work together and make sure that the end product meets the goals that Polly described that her and Tui worked on, that Joe described that he wants to, and then the good advice you just gave, Nancy. I think it's possible. You just have to be willing to be open to each other and listen and create something that can be put together. It seems quite possible.
I just point out too, I think we've heard over and over again from a very small group of very vocal people that they don't like the design and they think it's too urban. We also heard from people at the public forums who really liked the design and really liked the materials. So this is what we're doing. We're going back out, we want to hear from more people. Joe didn't design the memorial. He and Gift provided us with a conceptual design. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time on this one item, and I think I'm going to suggest, is it okay to move off this for now, knowing that Polly and Tui and Joe and Nancy will continue to think together about some kind of draft that we can all look at together at some point. And maybe you should tell us, like, is this like a 2 weeks from now kind of draft? Is this 3 weeks? Like, what do you need? How much time? Because I know you said probably be good if you had a deadline.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking for myself and for Tui and knowing his schedule a little bit, it's going to be 3 weeks at a minimum, I would say. Just
And it doesn't have to come to us in the perfect state. It could be.
no, it won't be
something to
perfect.
react
Believe
to.
me. And the other thing I just want to, so we can't get together with more than 3 people without posting a meeting.
Right. Mhm.
And so I'm just thinking logistically how this will work.
Well, I mean, I
Or-
do think,
and we really want everybody to be involved in this,
because
but
you just bring it back to this group. Only decisions can be made in the committee.
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, Tui's going to be out and very busy with a lot of activities he's going to do in his own life. My
Yeah.
guess is he'd be fine if he gave you he gave his input to you, Polly, and then he let
Yeah.
the 3 of you meet and get to work
I
over
think
the
that's
next
probably
week.
that's a good way to go. Okay.
Yeah.
No, no, I think, if I may, I
This is
think,
Terry, this is a work group. We're just
I
creating a
know,
work
I
group.
just want to comment that I really think you should post it. I mean, there's no other people here today. Maybe there won't be anybody else at that meeting, but this is controversial enough that you don't want to look like you're jamming it down people's throats and you broke any rules. And I really recommend that you post it.
So Terry, even if it's just a working session to put together a PowerPoint? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
And then we'd come back to this.
I know,
to be
It's
shared.
not like we're going to be making decisions about the memorial. We're going to be putting together a presentation.
well, if you have any kind of debate like you just had, you know, like which is going to come first, the citizen input or the presentation of what you've already done? I just to be safe, you should post it. What's the harm?
I don't think there's any harm in posting it. It just, people would have to understand that it's a working group and the team is going to be working.
Right.
And
We
then
do
that's
have
not going to be,
to-
it's not going to be a discussion with a large group in the room.
Correct.
They're going to
You
get their
don't-
work done. And at the end, they're more than happy to take public comment, but
Well, you don't
it's not
even
going to be
have-
discursive, because if it's discursive, they won't be able to get their work
No,
done.
Anything
you
done.
don't even have to take public comment. All you have to do is post it and have your
Okay.
working session. That's
In
all.
that case, you might get something done. That's probably a better idea.
An example of that, the Concord Historical Commission is working on its preservation plan, and we've decided that we're going to have these working meetings every Friday. Nobody's going to come, but but it is open. It's out on our town website. It's in the morning and
Right.
no question.
Mhm.
And then anybody can come, you know, because I'm going to be traveling in a couple of weeks, but then all of us can come. And it's open to all of us to come. It doesn't have to be a subcommittee. We can
Yes.
come as we can, as we have time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Polly, when that time comes, we'll help you get it posted. And if you have any
Okay.
questions, yeah, the three of you, you're gonna have to offline figure out a time. So we're gonna
That's
say
true,
for our,
many times.
yeah.
I mean, I think we might post, half a
Yeah.
dozen meetings in the next 3 weeks, so.
So what,
Buckle up.
Polly, what's the date we know we meet on Thursday, so what Thursday, pick the Thursday you'd want to talk to this group about
Okay,
it
I'm the
again.
one who was advocating for deadlines, and here I am terrified.
Well, ask
do
and you
you
shall receive.
Okay, so, that would be 3 weeks from today, believe it or not, is the 20th of February.
Okay. All right. So we'll next discuss this on the 20th. And you all will discuss it on your own in a posted work group between now and then, as many times as you need to.
Okay, and
Okay.
you'll all be invited because we may all need to. And there may, I mean, I have, well, anyway, yeah, okay, good.
And you can do it in person or Zoom, whatever you all decide, whatever is helpful to you. Okay. It's 40 minutes into our hour. So let's spend a little time talking about any other one of those items. Do we want to? There's a lot of energy. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yep, I think I'm next. Just trying to speed it up.
Yeah, please go
So
ahead.
I had agreed last time to talk to Holly Kratzley, and I did. And it was really useful. I talked to her today, and she I didn't know this, but for those of you who don't know, Holly Kratzley has is the chair of the commission, the subcommittee who sponsored this essay contest. And she actually had the idea. She wanted to publish the essays, and she first approached the Concord Review of CCHS, and that's a high school magazine. And they at first agreed, and then they said they couldn't do it. You know, the essays, there are 5 of them, and each of them is 2 pages, so that's 10 pages. Well, give or take. One's longer, one's shorter. So then they decided that there wasn't enough material for a whole issue, so they backed away. Then she thought, okay, the Concord Bridge would be a great place to publish these, and the former editor agreed to do that, and then the editor in place now said no. So Holly has a lot of different things going on, and she thought, well, I just can't keep going with this, and that's how she ended up putting the essays on the Right Tavern website. And I just looked at that because you guys had forwarded it to me, and that's how I read them. But I just looked at the Right Tavern website, and it's kind of hard to get to them. You have to go on and then click on 250th and then click on the essays. So who's going to do that but us? I don't think anybody's going to look at that. So that is sad, because at first I was going to say, no, I don't have time to do this. After I agreed to do this last time, I thought, no, I should have done that. And now, no, no, they are wonderful, and it is useful. I'm still working on it. I'm just at the beginning. I've had a lot going on. I've been sick and stuff. So I'm thinking about it. And what the questions that I have to you guys are, one, we would really need to decide how many copies we'd want to make. Because even just printing out however many pages, 12 pages costs money. Paper costs some money. It's not huge, but are we going to print out 100? Are we going to print out 100,000 for everybody who's coming? What is so that I need to know some basic, have some basic numbers like that. How many copies, who our audience is, and who's going to pay for it. So I throw that out to you.
Have you talked to?
Send me she's going to, the last thing I wanted to say is she's agreed to send me their emails. So I'm going to send them their emails, and then once I start a little conversation with them, I'm going to ask them if they have ideas for artwork for the cover, and maybe, ask them for suggestions of friends, or go to the art teacher. That's another piece of the puzzle.
So one thought, have you asked Polly Meyer about putting them on the Concord250 web page?
So instead of doing a booklet, put them on the Concord250.
And or
Oh,
Because
I
you
think that
said the
was
right.
That was Holly's project, so, I hadn't thought that far.
Okay. Well, and I'm wondering, is this how this fits with the permanent memorial subcommittee charge? Is this a project that's more appropriate for the outreach committee? How does it fit with our three projects?
Yeah, I had thought about, look, were you at last week's meeting? Maybe you weren't. Oh, so this just came about from a discussion of how to engage young people. So I'll back up because Joe Hibber wasn't here either. We were talking about how to engage different groups of people, and everyone loved the idea of trying to get young people involved. And then the essays came up. We were all assigned to read the essays. And then I just, on a whim, said, oh, they should be shared with other people. And so we thought, well, by engaging the students, bringing them back, seeing if they like that idea, getting their work out, and at the same time engaging them. And that's how we could start, a dialogue with them. So you're right. I also thought, is this an appropriate permanent memorial subcommittee activity? But Holly, I greatly admire her, and we could help her. I'm willing to help her commission too, her committee too. I'm going to help her on another project. So maybe it shouldn't come under our umbrella, but it's my time. So I don't think I could take this on all by myself.
And I think just to add one other, sort of go back to how we got to this point. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we would love to engage these students who've thought about so much about Concord's history and where we are, right? I mean, it's when I was thinking about, our initial idea of building something on that site that honors the past, marks this moment in time and the things that we're dealing with now, and continues to inspire people well into the future. That's what their essays are about. I mean, it just such a great alignment. So I would love to, whatever we do, whatever happens with the publication, to not lose the idea of, like, let's get them to, help. Maybe they'd be willing to help us make a memorial that they'll want when they come back in 50 years, which is what they're writing about, that they'll want to go and visit, what is, so.
I'd say, let's not limit it to these 5 students. There's 2 really popular classes at the high school, presidents and constitutional law. And I think, we could reach out to the teachers of those classes and get, see if they have students they think would be interested in being a part of a focus group.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, we see if this is right. Nancy, would you like to sort of take the responsibility off your shoulders of making the book? And then we go back to the responsibility of someone on the committee to engage some wide group of high school students, specifically with the essays, and then maybe others that Krista added to do this group, focus group, feedback group, something. Is that what we're saying, or?
I'm happy to do whatever the group advocates. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, as I said, I would definitely want to have help making a lot of books. It would take a lot of time, and would actually need to know the numbers. We'd have to decide on that. So if we're not,
I think that
I'm happy for other people to reach out.
Nancy, would it make sense to contact the library and see if there's some way that they would be part of it? I think
Makerspace.
yeah, I don't know exactly, but I can
know the bookbinder there because we trained in the same program. And she's actually,
they might be interested.
Courses with her in the makerspace. And I thought if we were doing like a cover that had laser cutting or anything, that would be a great place to do it, to bring in the library. So that's a possibility. And we could make a small addition. We wouldn't make it as to give it to every.
You could make I don't know what a small number is, but like enough for the students, and then another X 40, 20, 30, 50, and then they get gifted, or they raffled off, or they're sold for fundraising for our student scholarship. I mean, do something.
Or they become part of the collection where they're, the 250th essays, create a book that the library then has.
Right. It's a good idea.
The essay Castles in the Air, she writes, and I'm trying to find it, but she writes something like, and, the last thing is, well, we'd stroll over to the Concord Rare Books room and we'd find our essays that had been saved from 50 years ago.
That's
So
right.
it nicely ties into that.
Yeah, that sounds that's awesome. Yeah.
I'd be happy to reach out to Miss Davies at the high school who teaches the president's class and see if like maybe we could go. They have these flex blocks now that kids can go to. So if we have our presentation and we could ask if we could come to one of the flex boxes and maybe she could help us get a group of students together to.
All right. So what I'm hearing is, Krista, you're going to kind of take lead on the engaging students via the high school. Nancy, you're going to continue the good work on whatever ends up in a book binding, whatever you think's best. And I think in terms of budget, I'm sure once you have a number, this seems like something we could easily go back to the executive committee. Where there's not supposed to be, I think this number would be small enough that if it was a combined ask of the permanent memorial committee and the community engagement, I bet they could, from the new donations that are coming in. I'm sure this is small money. I don't know, but it feels that way. Okay.
And Krista, should the Rivers and Revolutions, should they
Yes.
also be part of that? Okay.
That would
Yeah.
be great.
So with the 10 minutes we have left, Kate, do you want to just check in on, I know you haven't done anything, but is there anything you want to say? We were starting that conversation a little bit ago about I don't know what to call it, but getting people to imagine figurative art in the space. Is that how to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm feeling a little shy about it right now because it feels like the group would like to continue honoring all the work it's done. And since I'm a new member, I wasn't part of that decision-making process. So I wasn't aware of how you all came to where you are. So maybe I could rethink it, and perhaps to be part of the Dog and Pony show, you could include a more art historical like thinking about, and I could research different artists and their sculpture that would be options that have dealt with liberty and freedom and democracy and social justice. I can think of about 5 off the top of my head right now, and then I can just include pictures. If that sounds like if that's a good thing to do.
It gets it into the conversation, but with a lot less work right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to engage a bunch of artists and tell them, do this, here's the space, blah, blah, blah. If that's not the direction we're going.
And I think that Joe originally brought us some examples of figurative or more sculptural. Some of them are quite abstract, I would say. But
yeah, I'm not talking about actual people,
right?
Statues of people. No, that's not
something.
Yeah, I think when we talked about these alternatives early on, we did present in PowerPoint options of different types, and I can dig that PowerPoint out, Kate, and share with you what we did.
Okay. Right.
Give you more context.
I did, after our last meeting, I made a list of about 12 different people that I thought, different sculptors that I have some connection to, that I thought might be, have something interesting to offer us. They're not all like,
yeah, get in there.
Yeah, they're all different kinds, and my idea was more to create an exhibition that would have the drawings of, you would, tell a group of sculptors, this is our idea, give us a drawing that we can put on a wall in an exhibition so that people can look at your idea about what you would do in this space, because sculptors are often very good at, they're good draftsmen. They make wonderful drawings. So that was how I thought of it. But
I still think that's a wonderful and beautiful idea.
I can't do that. I talked to my exhibitions committee, and we can't do that this year. but
it could be in 26.
26. Yeah, we could try it then. Yeah. And I reached out to Sarah Montrose, who's the curator and the new director of Concord250. And I've worked with a lot. And they're part of the trustees, and I had all kinds of ideas about properties and trustees, and because there is a sculpture committee for the trustees that places sculpture on all of the properties. So, I mean, I tend to think very big and abstract. So I know that this probably doesn't, I'm not sure if anybody here understands what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think
But
I do.
okay, so that was where I was going with it.
So what I think, let me see if I got it right, that there are some images you're going to pull together to share with this group
Sure, I could do
that
that.
will help people start thinking about conceptually. But the idea of having sculptors react to something and create drafts is not dead. That's just postponed maybe till because the earliest you could do it would be 26. And then I think it'll be informed by where we're at on this process in 26.
Right. I actually presented it to the group last week. Well, no, it was on Tuesday. And everybody loved the idea here at Concord Art, but felt that there wasn't enough time to do it for the fall show. So we've chosen to do something different.
Is that
And
clear
so,
then,
and I also, I just want to say, Joe, I don't want to step on your toes. And I feel like that this whole idea, I want it to be more like, I think of it more like, oh, we don't want you to think that, you know, when you do the presentation, that this is the only way to go. Here's some other ways that you can go with this idea. So that's how I see it. Okay. Not a competitive thing, but like help them expand their thinking about it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And
Okay.
I don't feel that moving in the direction of explaining where we've come from and then opening the door to new ideas is the wrong thing to do at this time. It's
Okay,
very
good.
appropriate. And
All right.
and I would say that this presentation is not a defense of the design, but it's an explanation. So
Yeah.
everybody knows
Nicely.
where
Yeah.
we've come from
Yeah.
and what we've done and why we did it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, opening the doors for more participation.
And Joe, I think that that's exactly right. And I think everyone's just super polite and don't want to, you know, and so to have that coming from you is very important so that you give people the permission to explore, you know, that I think
Yeah.
that's good.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not thin-skinned about this at all or
Good.
defensive
No,
about
I
it.
don't think you are, but I think people just assume because they were all brought up with such good manners that they would never want to you know, it's hard. You don't want to step on someone's toes. So that's,
Yeah,
I
you want to be
just want to be
kind, right?
sensitive.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So keeping an eye on the time, could everyone just sort of recap what, if they have any to-dos coming up soon from today's meeting?
I'll set up a schedule of working groups on the presentation.
I'll reach out to folks at the high school.
I'll create an art historical record of all of the sculpture ever made that has to do with freedom. No,
And
I'm teasing.
mermaids.
And mermaids. And Denmark. Okay, good.
I'll help Polly make sure if we need any help with posting of these work group meetings. Nancy, do you have what's yours?
I don't know.
You were gonna keep thinking about the book and maybe get a price to do some limited run. Yeah, is that
Yeah,
okay?
and I'm gonna wait till I get the emails from the students and reach out, see what their ideas.
Okay. So Terry, are you logging on? Could you like to have a comment?
Sorry to interrupt earlier.
No.
Excellent discussion. It's, you know, we want to get everyone in town on board. So you're doing the right thing having these discussions. They're difficult, they're painful. That's why I recommended, just to be safe, to post it. Hopefully no one will show up. You can even do it in person if you want, and then maybe nobody will show up, but you have to post it so that you don't have a challenge leader. There have been other towns challenged on their working groups by the Attorney General. And we just don't want to mess around with all that. So thanks for your understanding and great work, great conversation. Look forward to
you.
the future.
Thank you, Terry. So thank you, Terry. Based on the work that everyone has to do you think that should we be meeting next Thursday and to keep on schedule, or does people feel like we're not going to have enough done? We should wait 2 weeks. What do you think? Or is better just keep going? Kate, Polly?
I don't know what would be on the agenda for next week. I mean,
A working group meeting.
Yeah,
there you go. Okay.
that might make it easy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
I would
the
propose that could be our
so that'll be
first.
that could be the only agenda item. It's just
I
that.
will, my only caveat is I'm taking a plane home from Texas that morning. So if there's a foot of snow, I might have a problem with that, but
So why don't we just schedule a working group meeting for next Thursday at 5, stay on pattern. And if we have to get canceled because of weather, there's a mechanism for that.
okay. All
Okay.
right. Joe, we can talk about it. I don't know how to post, but.
Yep. Super easy.
Okay.
Okay. Any last comments for the good of the order?
Just one, I have a question for the notes. I see there's Nancy with no last name, and I want to make sure, is that Nancy Nelson? Or is that another Nancy there?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Hi,
Oh,
Nancy.
hi, Nancy Nelson.
Hi.
Did you have any public comment? I'm sorry, I didn't know that was you.
So I was having to be in and out of the meeting. So have you decided not to look at any other alternatives? Because that's not exactly the impression I got from the select board meeting. So this is just an explanation and an education of people about the current concept, right?
No, no.
And how are
No.
you going to get additional?
So we were just talking about for the last hour about how it's
I'm
gonna.
sorry, I'll check in with Nancy. I'm sorry I was having to be in and out.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, no, we're in good shape. You'll be happy, I think.
That's the one thing I was
Yeah,
looking for.
no, there's a lot of opportunity for people to take it in new directions. Opening the door was sort of the catchphrase, what we talked about, to new ideas.
I got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. No worries.
Been there the whole time.
That's okay. I'm sorry, Polly, did we answer your question? I was gonna try. Did all the questions get answered? Today? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It seems like we're making good progress and building some meaning together. So I appreciate everyone's time and input. And we'll meet those who would like to join the working group. We'll meet next Thursday at 5, same place.